a letter to Daddy. His address is heaven above.
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. I'm all tarted up today to synchronize with something I'm going to show you at the beginning of this episode, because I was in Paris on Saturday evening for a wonderful party in the Salon Louis XV at the Ritz, hosted by David Neville and Michael Reynolds, a former chairman of the International Bar Association, to celebrate his 50th birthday. That's my arithmetic, not his. And it was the most wonderful evening with really some absolutely fascinating people, aside from half the Bar Association. There were really several other very interesting guests. And it was a wonderful, wonderful evening where everything was just impeccable, as the French would have put it. Just gorgeous. And since I was tarted up like this, I thought, since I'm going to be showing a picture or two, I would just coordinate. So without further ado, I am going to ask that a short clip of Warby and Farrell, that wonderful two-piano team, classical two-piano team, Kevin Warby and Stephen Farrell, they entertained after dinner. So we had drinks and canapes at 7, dinner at 8:30, which was a little bit later, as always. Entertainment at 11 with Warby and Farrell, and then chatting till the early hours. So hopefully you will find this little snippet and the one or two photographs a little bit entertaining. Okie dokes. To now plunge in with the matter at hand. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for your wonderful comments about Saturday's episode. One or two people said I was a little bit too obscure and opaque, but other people got the message and sort of pointed them in the right direction. You know, one can't always bring elephants to crush ants. Sometimes a little fly swat does the job just as well. Let's put it that way. Now, without further ado, Bev Hart says, Dan Wooten tweeted that Harry and Meghan were the leak. Well, I haven't seen that tweet from Dan, but of course I am in touch with Dan. And I do know that he has made it absolutely clear publicly that neither the King nor the Queen, present King and Queen, not the late Queen, nor William or Catherine none of them was the source of the leak. So, and none of their people were the sources of the leak. So, I don't want to overgild the lily. If Dan has tweeted that Harry and Meghan and all their people were the source of the leak, I think we can take that as read. Let's leave it at that. Blue Swallow Bird says, Christian Jones was press secretary to the Sussexes and the Cambridges. Yes, he was. And he has confirmed that he was not the source of the leak, nor was his partner. So we can leave it at that. You know, when you're dealing with people who are as devious and manipulative and as resourceful where the truth and facts are concerned, it does not behoove one to step on other people's toes. Let them do the talking. So I'll leave it up to Dan. But because the Byline Times features had a purpose, and the purpose was to get people talking about the Byline Times, because they want people to buy their hard copies, which they have just started to put out. Before that, it was an internet and notional rag. Now it is a physical rag. And that's why they published what they published, to be incendiary and to grab the public's attention. It's actually a clever ploy. And I'm not going to condemn them for being clever and resourceful, because what they were doing is what anybody else in the business would do, which is try to find the most topical matters that will get the most publicity and run with those. Of course, the timing of all of this is very convenient. And remember, as Freud said, there's no such thing as a coincidence. So, Partly Cloudy says, Twitter did an investigation and debunked bot Sentinel and Booz's reports as useless. It's well documented. Netflix should be ashamed of themselves for using false data by Boozy in that mock-you-series. Yes, since this has been brought up by Times or Byline or whatever it is, by rubbish. Let's address all the positives that they had, which were going to enhance their credibility and have turned out to be nothing but negatives. Because, of course, they have Chris Bryant, the MP, using bot Sentinel as a reliable source of Harry and Meghan's victimization, notwithstanding the fact that Twitter has already debunked all the claims that were made in the Netflix series, and that Harry and Meghan and the Guppy have been promulgating as if facts and fiction are the same thing. Well, we all know fact is a 4-letter word, and they don't deal in 4-letter words. They deal in big words like fiction. Faux Pinky 2 says, I seriously doubt William has any roses or pansies in his garden. Harry, however, gives off a very pansy adjacent vibe, and any variety in his garden comes as no surprise to me. As a pansy myself, love it. I know my flowers. And Megsy adjacent individuals have a long history of projecting their own issue onto others. So there's that. Faux Pinky too? Ah, you've got class, just like Megsy Baby. No, I think you've got more class than Megsy Baby, because you speak the truth. Megsy Baby speaks her truth. And her truth is a three-letter word beginning with L. Well, my own personal interpretation of the whole issue of which flowers are growing in whose garden is that the whole thing is a massive distraction and a flagrant canard, old enough to have witnessed many a flower being mislabeled in the gardens. And one of the oldest mislabeling has been in terms of who is interested in people in one direction and who is interested in people in another, and how active people are, and etc., etc., etc. And I have to tell you, I don't know of one person who is of very high rank, who at some point or the other has not been accused of behavior that they were not inclined towards. Let me put it that way. This being YouTube, one has to be very careful how one phrases things to not fall afoul of their rules and regulations. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that William does not, never has, and never will be planting pansies in his garden. Harry, yes, Harry has actually been accused and of possibly having taste that runs to pansies in his garden. I don't believe that either. I totally get that Harry is almost limp-wristed. I mean, there's something very effeminate about some of his physical movements, notwithstanding the fact he is a fine athlete, and whatever your regard for him as a human being, he is in many ways a fine figure of a man, well, at least from the neck down. And I don't think that Harry, irrespective of the slightly sometimes effete manner that he has, which is actually, in my reading, very much related to being very immature and maybe slightly out with the fairies in another sort of way. So, but I don't think Harry has any interest in having a border of pansies in his immediate garden. Let me put it that way, which doesn't mean that Meghan, like, well, the reality is, Meghan's interest in gays, as let's cut to the chase where she's concerned, Meghan has always been interested in gays because Meghan has always been socially ambitious. And if you are socially ambitious or forced through circumstances to have a social life and function in the social world, you have a great tolerance for and sometimes affection towards gays. So, yeah, Meghan has, well, her best male friend is supposedly so gay that Leonard Bernstein could have written, oh, I feel pretty and witty and gay, with her best male friend in mind. But I actually, in fairness to Harry, don't think that he has any personal tendencies in that direction. Let me put it that way. That's just my take on it. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Anna Key says, 10543. Byline Times is exactly the type of misinformation rag has and Megs want to stop, in quotes, Duke and Duchess of hypocrisy. I think she's referring to a comment I made at that particular time in Saturday's video. Well, you know, in my opinion, Byline Times is a pathetic rag. And that doesn't mean that pathetic rags don't sometimes get their facts straight. But on the law of averages, even losers are going to win occasionally. So let's leave it at that. But this rehash of and rebranding of Harry and Meghan as very popular and that the royal family was jealous of them, of their popularity and the worldwide media recognition of their popularity and their tremendous personal qualities is actually very useful because it shows the wild inconsistency and indeed reveals the true lies that Harry, Meghan and their supporters have been telling. Sorry. And the complaints they have been making, and shows these complaints to be totally unjustified. And I'll get to that in a moment. But I will say the narrative that Byline Times has been pushing is also the narrative that David Sherborne was pushing in court. And Mr. Justice Fancourt made it absolutely clear that this was rubbish. So, not only in a court of law, but out of the court of law, you have anybody with two grains of sense in their head being able to tell you that these claims are spurious, they have been discounted, they are ridiculous, but This is the alternative narrative that Byline Times and Harry's supporters have been pushing and will continue to push. Because if they don't push a false narrative, they are stymied because they can't push the truth. Because the truth renders them unable to complain. And it also renders Harry and Meghan useless in terms of David Sherborne, Hugh Grant, Elton John, Byline Times, Dan Evans, Hacked Off, and all of the nefarious stuff that they are all getting up to, trying to introduce censorship through one door or the other. Pamela Lipscomb says, Byline said on Twitter, we are just getting started. Surprise, surprise. It was their first print run, insofar as I am aware. So they're getting started in more ways than one. The fact of the matter is they are such a rag that I don't think anybody in their right mind, no matter what they said, would condescend to sue them except for criminal libel. But to sue them for actual libel would be folly, because you would be setting yourself up to lose a lot of money, because they could simply just go into administration because they don't have the funds. So they're getting started, threatened. We're all threatened. We're all put on notice. What was it Megsie Baby said? She didn't sign any confidentiality agreements when she entered the royal family, as if she was staff instead of family. That just goes to show the level that her mind is at. R.S. Finley says, Harry and Meghan, which is it? The press was awful about you and tore you apart, or the press splashed how wonderful you both were, and this made the other royals jealous. R.S. Finley, you are one of many people who has made that point. Many others have made the same point in slightly different ways. Yours is the most succinct, so I'm reading it out. There is one of the many dichotomies where Harry and Meghan and their supposed complaints and their narrative would be concerned. Which was it? They were so popular that the royal family envied them and were terrified of their popularity and had to destroy them. Well, or the royal family was so beastly to them and the press took the royal family's side that they have justifiable complaints. How can it be both at the same time? But they are saying it's both at the same time. They're saying the British press was beastly. Remember? Meghan complaining to Tom Bradby about how beastly everybody was to her. Nobody's asked if I'm okay. And how could they be so mean and beastly to me? I mean, you know, when I was first pregnant with Archie, I was at Soho House in Holland, knocking back the booze. You know, I was, you know, and nobody's criticized me for that. I wonder why. And they come up with all these mean stories about it was perfectly okay for me to drink because I wasn't going to harm Archie. Well, the only reason why I was drinking so much was I was having a good time. And how was I to know I was pregnant? I mean, I had no idea. None at all. Beulah, peel me a grape, and while you're about it, get me some Coke. I'm thirsty. Do you see the wild inconsistency and the absolute crazy stupidity and the shamelessness of organizations and rags like Ballime Times printing and promulgating this utter rubbish? Lynn Iverson says, I think the whole Meghan Markle situation is really interesting. It shows that even if you have a distinguished title, people do not respect you unless you behave with humanity and dignity. It is all rather democratic that few people actually fawn just over a title itself. Lynn Iverson, brilliant observation. I don't think I've heard anybody make it before. And you're absolutely right. And the public have a nose for phonies and frauds and dishonourable people and unlikable people and people they should have no respect for. And they go off the conduct of the parties concerned. Yes, to an extent, the press does have the ability to distort the persona, the public image of a public figure. I know what I'm talking about. They did it to me for 30 years. Well, 1975 to 2016, 15. So that's 40 years. 40 years. Anyway, however long it was. They did it to me for 40 years. But once the public had access to me via television and could see me without being edited out, they formed their own conclusions, notwithstanding the fact that I made no attempt whatsoever to present a false facade or pretend to be anything I wasn't. And maybe that's what they picked up, authenticity. And that's what they pick up with Meghan, lack of authenticity. And ultimately, they'd much rather have somebody like Princess Anne or me calling a spade and sometimes a something shovel than having Meghan. I'm so classy. Oh, I'm just going to slip it in. I'm just going to destroy Daddy. I'm going to write a letter to Daddy. And I'm going to ruin him. And I'm going to tell everybody, family is all that counts. I'm compassionate, got to be having love for everybody. Write that letter to Daddy. Jason Knopf, make sure that you gild that lily to perfection so that my Daddy, who, of course I'm going to say he's Daddy and he's going to pull at the heartstrings. People aren't dumb. And all a public figure needs to make the mistake of doing is giving the public access to his or to her unvarnished persona, and the public will figure out what's real and what's fake. They do it time and again. The only instance I have ever seen in my life where the public was totally duped by a very accomplished performer was Philip Schofield. Within the industry, everybody knew he was absolutely horrendously ghastly. But he had a perfectly well-constructed public persona. But ultimately, It didn't behoove him because finally people saw through him. And people have seen through Meghan. And she could call herself the Empress of Heaven, Her Galactic Majesty, the Empress of the Universe. People aren't deceived. And Lynn Iverson, thanks for the observation, because, yeah, ultimately it shows people have good judgment and they are democratic. They are not sucking up to people because of their grand names or even their grand accomplishments. Because there are many people who have been very well accomplished, who have fallen in the characterless states. Let's put it that way. Marion Wilson says, Lady C, your extreme anger, frustration and indignation is felt by thousands of us, even without the details of your inside information. Something is so very wrong when one troublemaker can cause so much anger and outrage. Time and energy is being needlessly wasted every day by the self-absorbed greed and selfishness we are powerlessly witnessing. This will not end well, but for whom will justice prevail? Marion Wilson, justice is prevailing. Where Meghan and Harry are concerned, their actions have exposed them. They haven't been exposed by anybody else. They have been exposed by themselves. Then what people have done is they have observed and remarked and commented upon what they have witnessed. People have added up 2 and 2 and come up with 4. So I would not say that this is wasted or needless, because this is a living tableau vivant, a living morality play, a living example of how arrogance, ignorance, impertinence, pretentiousness, inconsistency, and the demands of egotistical spoiled brats are noted for what they are and accordingly dismissed. So I think every time Harry and Meghan and their cohorts open up their mouths, they are actually punishing themselves by revealing themselves. I don't think it will end well, but I think also it has been a form of entertainment, and it might remain a form of entertainment, because so much that's even more horrendous is going on in the world that is truly horrendous. I mean, the Harry and Meghan dog and pony show is really, on a scale of 1 to 10, 2. You know, I mean, they've done a lot of damage, but it's now to a large extent been rectified because they have been called out on their games. So I really think that it's a dog and pony show that also focuses attention on what the other members of the family do. And they, by being superb foils, highlight in a way that had not been highlighted before the positive accomplishments of the rest of the royal family. So, but I mean, think of what's going on in the world at the moment. And at some point, some of it is going to have to be addressed. I mean, later on this week, I'm going to be addressing something that's infinitely more serious and more dangerous even than the Middle Eastern conflict or the situation in Ukraine. And certainly, where Harry and Meghan are concerned, is a bagatelle. So, more need not be said at this point. Jeannie Scott says, Lady C, please continue this in another video. We want to know. I'm continuing it, Jeannie Scott. Kelly Folsom says, wow, the treachery is shocking, isn't it just? It is shocking, and it's good that we are shocked. And it's good that we call time on the tune. How else are we going to learn? And how else are we going to also prevent them from achieving their objectives, which is to dupe us and to silence us and to have us genuflect as if they are gods when they are not even, in my opinion, particularly adequate human beings. So how they could get from inadequate human beings to godly status is beyond me. But then again, I'm not looking in the mirror saying, mirror, mirror on the wall, why am I the fairest of us all? Mirror, mirror on the wall. I know I'm not the fairest of us all, but I worship at the altar of the fairest of them all. And every time I try to get away, mirror, mirror, please. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm in a terrible pickle. I think more need not be said on that point. So Much Fire says, wow, they are really going all in with their gaslighting and insanity. Well, the scam is up. Everyone knows H&M's true colours. This gaslighting just looks like sheer insanity. Well, it looks like sheer insanity, So Much Fire, because people call them out on their turning the gaslight up and down. And every time they do it, nobody quivers and quakes like Ingrid Bergman. They say, Charles Boyer, you've got your hand on that gas lever. And it is sheer insanity to be perpetuating and perpetrating the continued gaslighting, where we are supposed to believe that north is south, east is west, good is bad, black is white, because we are told it by a load of dorks and turkeys. Lily J says, don't the Harkles understand that they are turning more and more Americans into royal family supporters? I am team royal family thanks to MM. Well, Lily J, I just sort of touched upon that. So I'm not going to repeat myself beyond saying, yes, one of the happy side effects of Meghan and Harry's antics is that the spotlight has been shone on the sterling and previously unsung and unnoticed work that many of the other royals do. And they have also shone a spotlight on the decency of the royal family and the way they conduct themselves with decorum and respect to sterling virtues. They've not gone down to the gutter and wrestled with the pigs in the sty. And by not doing that, they have allowed the pigs in the gutter to show the world that with or without lipstick, they're still pigs. Jeannie Scott says, "Thank you, Lady C. Fantastic video. You did a wonderful job on investigating and getting the truth out." That refers, of course, to Saturday's video. "Unfortunately, true evil is behind this, certainly destructiveness. I'm very uncomfortable with, by and large, using the word evil, because it really is limited to a spiritual dimension normally. And when one uses it, which I have from time to time, I am aware of the fact that one is opening oneself up to criticism for being emotive, when maybe a less spiritual and esoteric word would be more unable to be criticized, for instance, destructive. So I think destructiveness is behind this. So, but I agree with you that it is destructive. If you wish to use the word evil, fine. However, they are fooling themselves. All the lies, deceit, manipulation, and conniving won't work. People see through the facade. You can fool a lot of the people a lot of the time. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. Very old and wise adage and observation. And with the passage of time, as I said earlier, Harry and Meghan, every time they do something to try to wave the magic wand, look, I'm such a superb magician. So, look, rabbit's out of the hat. Rabbit, this is a rabbit. Yup, this is a rabbit. This is a rabbit. This is a rabbit. This is a rabbit. It's not a flying pig. It's a rabbit. 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 No, it's not. It's a flying pig. We're not stupid. They're stupid to think that they can deceive us. You know, one of Einstein's definitions of insanity is that you do something 999 times and have one result, and the thousandth expects to have a different result. Well, Harry and Meghan are definitely proving to us that Einstein knew what he was talking about. It is a form of insanity. It's also a form of arrogance. It's also a form of stupidity. It's a form of stupid, arrogant people, so egotistical that they think they're so clever that everybody else is a fool. Rag, Wart, Rattle says, "You can't believe that the scenes in the Fiji market are indicative of a successful visit, can you?" I don't think I ever said, and I don't think anybody else in their right mind would ever have said that the scenes in the Fiji market were indicative of a successful visit. In fact, they are successful of Meghan exposing herself for the really rather, I mean, again, I'll have to use the word stupid, but also self-indulgent and spoilt and entitled and enraged, that because that woman, Elizabeth something or the other, whose name I can't remember, at the UN, who, when Meghan sucked up to her and didn't get everything she wanted out of her, she got enough to actually stand up on the podium and give a speech in the plunging black dress with the deep neckline, and everybody should have a daddy like mine. My daddy is just the most wonderful man on earth. That's what she said. The same daddy. I'm going to write a letter to daddy, and then I'm going to get my 5 friends to destroy his reputation in People magazine, because I'm just such a wonderful person. I'm a good and loyal daughter. I believe in love and compassion, and I certainly believe in family. Family. We all need to believe in family. I'm going to preach the virtues of family, and I'm also going to preach the virtues of keeping your carbon footprint small. One plane journey, private plane journey at a time for me, but not for you. You're just a rabble. You don't count. None of you counts. I count. I'm special. Well, she certainly showed herself in her true colours in that mall. I mean, can you imagine being so irate because the women had on t-shirts indicative of a reputable organisation that had given Meghan one of her first legs up into the political arena. And Meghan, because she didn't get what she wanted from her superior at the UN, wanted to have nothing to do with them and was furious and stormed out. Oh, the heat, the heat. I've never had heat in my life before. We white people don't have heat. Oh, sorry. I'm a woman of colour. I forgot that. I forgot. I'm now a woman of colour. We're not used to the heat either. No. Nobody's used to the heat. This heat in Fiji is just enough. And I'm magnet. I'm so magnet. I mean, you notice I'm starting to show. Yeah. Now, am I 7 or 9 days magnet? No, I'm a little bit more than that. I'm magnet and I'm showing. And I just can't take this opposition. I mean, can you imagine? I was so offended. She exposed herself in the most amazing way, didn't she? And that's in the market. And then she had the unmitigated gall to get up and give a speech to university students, asserting that she had worked her way through university. Well, she might have worked her way through certain circles at the university for aggrandizement and social enhancement and getting herself a lot of what she wanted. But she certainly didn't hustle those buns in terms of school fees, because daddy paid them all. So she didn't only unmask herself at the market, she unmasked herself afterwards, and then she was really shocked that her father and sister said, "Excuse me, that's not true." But I mean, Meghan, of course, is allowed to erase everybody's accomplishments because she's the ultimate authority on fact. Donna Relaxing says, "The timing of all this. Look, though I don't believe any of this, but if any of it is true, they have done so much damage unto themselves that nobody would care. Nobody will change their opinion of them because we have 5 years of hypocrisy, lies, and scripted interviews. Happy birthday, King Charles III. It appears your spoiled, petulant child is going to make sure your birthday month is full of drama. America is ready for them to leave already. Well, you make an interesting observation. And November, we need to remember, is not only King Charles's birthday, it's also the Earthshot Prize. Sorry. Remember last year when Ngozi Fulani, in reality Marlene Headley, whose Sister Space got shut down? Oh dear, oh dear. Real genuine charity gets shut down. And the people who ran the charity don't have that coat of milk anymore. Oh dear, poor darlings. Oh. Well, my understanding is that she was trying to nail Queen Camilla, and when she couldn't gain access to Queen Camilla despite several efforts of trying, she nailed Lady Susan Hussey instead. And we all know the whole rather regrettable matter of how that happened and what happened and how it evolves. And I said at the time that Susan Hussey was falling on her sword because she is a loyal royalist, but she, even though she had lost her job, and she would not actually be frozen out, and she has not been frozen out. Good. Pity she had to lose her job at all, but you know, sometimes expediency steps in where maybe it's regrettable that it had to. Well, let's see what happens around this year's Earthshot Prize. Then, of course, there's the King and Queen's state visit to Kenya. There's also Remembrance Day coming up. Oh my goodness, are Harry and Meghan are going to be stepping over the graves of other fallen veterans for a photo op? Look at me, I'm just fabulous. My heart bleeds for everybody who's lost a father or a brother or a sister. I know what you're going through. I've lost them too. My war, though, was a far worse war than yours. Yours only died in the war. Mine died in the war of public opinion, self-aggrandizement, hustling, and unrealized ambition that I'm still trying to realize. Then, of course, there's Amidst Scabies book, which, of course, Meghan and Harry will have had nothing to do with the way they had nothing to do with the last one. Remember? Remember the lies that were told to the court? Remember those lies? Well, let's see, because we all know that Amidst Scabies is Meghan Markle in a different guise. And of course, the reality is they're both as artificial and plastic. Each is as artificial and plastic as the other. And each is, as in my opinion, hateful as the other, driven by the desire to rip down and cause divisiveness, when what we decent people would like to see is harmony. But of course, they need to indulge in a pity fest. because like all people like that, it's not enough that you admire them and worship at their altar. You've also got to pity them. Interesting. You know, one of the absolute unfailing traits of antisocial personalities is their need for everybody's sympathy. Interesting, no? And we're going to end with Val Haynes, who says, Sir Chris Bryant, isn't he the MP caught advertising his wares on a gay website a number of years ago? Yes. And I gather, I never saw the picture, but I gather he was advertising pennies as if they were pounds. And he was advertising dirty linen as if it was freshly manufactured Porto sheets. Evidently not worth seeing at all. However, you know, O ye of little faith, well, I think with him it should be, O ye of little attributes. But we won't go there. We're not going to recriminate further about his tastelessness. Until recently, he sat in judgment of other MPs' behaviour as chair of the Parliamentary Standards Committee. That tells you something about our Parliament nowadays, doesn't it? But he is renowned for his erroneous statements in Parliament, to put it mildly, hiding behind the protection of parliamentary privilege. To put it mildly, he is a hypocrite of the highest order, and anything he puts his name to needs to be viewed with a healthy dose of skepticism. Well, you're absolutely right. He waded in, evidently in the most disgusting way, to assist in the destruction of poor Harvey Proctor's career and created havoc. He wasn't the only one, but he was evidently involved. He also was extremely vicious using parliamentary privilege to accuse Nigel Farage of being effectively a paid Russian agent in this country. And when he was forced to withdraw his statement, and he never apologized, incidentally, I'm told, he chose to do it when there was nobody in the house and it was not reported upon. Of course, it wasn't going to be reported upon either, because he is a darling of certain organs in the press, for instance, the Mirror Group, because he started out as a Conservative and he's now Labour, and he's now very leftist Labour, but not in a positive way. And some leftists are very positive. He's not one of them. He can be extremely vicious and malicious and uses parliamentary privilege. Well, he's a bitchy so-and-so, is what somebody said to me, using a rank that was recently vacated by our beloved monarch, is how they put it. But I'm not going to say that, because I don't think... I think that he was an Anglican priest, and he stepped down because he thought being gay was incompatible with being an Anglican priest. I don't know why he'd have thought that. Many Anglican priests are gay. I mean, if you go into many churches in this country, half of them are gay. Does that mean that they are any less worthy of being priests? I don't think so. One of the finest priests I know is gay. He's a wonderful, wonderful man. Absolutely marvellous. But he thought it was incompatible with his calling to be gay. So I suppose he discovered he was gay the way Christopher Columbus discovered Santo Domingo in 1492. Oh, my goodness, I've stumbled upon the New World. Oh, how did that happen? I mean, that sort of revelation leaves me full of skepticism. However, he then became an MP. Well, you can't be a priest and an MP at the same time, can you? So maybe, really, I could be very much doing him an injustice, but it seems to me as if his ambitions for power and for dumping on people whom he doesn't approve of, in his sanctimonious, hypocritical way, was really the motivation for abandoning the priesthood. I'm afraid he's not somebody I have any respect for. Abusing parliamentary privilege, as he has done on more than one occasion, to nail what he regards as an adversary, who was actually a colleague at one point or the other of his, but on the wrong side of the political divide, tells me we are dealing with a sanctimonious, punitive, really rather odious personality. I'm going totally off his behaviour. I've never met the man. I hope to never meet the man. But he's the one. And so unaware that he advertises wares he should be concealing and embarks upon behaviour that he should be embarrassed to embark upon. And on that note, I will say, thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to address. And take good care. And if you have truly enjoyed this, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and Godspeed.